Wow. So you want to make Neapolitan pizza in your home oven, but you don't know what settings to use for the best results. In this video, I'm going to answer two questions. Number one, what is the best setting for making Neapolitan pizza in a home oven? And second, do we need to pre-bake the crust before adding all the toppings, or can we get the oven hot enough to avoid that? I'm going to test 3 different oven settings to try and find the best one for making pizza Napoletana: normal bake, broil, and convection broil. While I'm testing, I'll always have the oven set to maximum temperature. Hopefully one of these settings will make it possible for us to avoid pre-cooking our crust without burning our cheese or leaving our crust undercooked. But before we start with the tests, let's make one pizza the way I've always done it to act as a control. Looks like the crust is just starting to brown, so I'm going to add the cheese. Now we wait for the cheese to get bubbly and we'll take it out. Okay, that cheese is bubbling. And presto. Honestly, this method makes a decent pizza, and if this oven can't do any better, I'll still be happy to make this. But let's see how our other tests do. This is test 1. Normal bake. It's basically the exact same thing I just did, but instead of adding the cheese in the middle, I'm going to add it at the beginning. I pretty much know that this is not going to turn out, but for science. Okay, I can't let it go any longer, so I'm gonna pull this out. So here's the pizza from test 1. You can see that it didn't bake long enough, basically. This crust, no crunch. The cheese isn't burnt because I pulled it out. If I would have let this get all nice and browned and crunchy, it would be burnt. Basically, the oven's just not hot enough to cook the dough before the cheese burns. I think in order for that setting to work, it would just need to be a lot hotter, which this oven is at the hottest setting it can be. So that's not gonna happen. Up to this point, we've been using the normal bake setting. Let's try the broil setting. Wow, that is actually insane. Let's measure the temperature again real quick, 332-ish. I've left the oven open because that helps this to stay on. If you close it, then it kind of turns off. This honestly looks like it might work, which would make me very happy. Okay, I gotta pull that out. Okay, wow, the cheese is not burnt. Still very stretchy. Wow, that crunch. Kind of surprised, that turned out better than I thought. If you only look at that, looks really good. But you can definitely see there is some unevenness. So let's try the last setting, which is broil with the fan. Before we throw this in, let's check the temperature. Wow, holy smokes. I feel like I'm gonna burn the house down or something. That is hot, and the fan turns on every once in a while to kind of warm up the air. I'm pretty hopeful. I think this might be the key. Wow, look at that. It's already starting to like brown and stuff. This is interesting. I might have to turn it like in a real pizza oven, if you can believe that. Crunchy? Kinda. It cooked pretty unevenly. I'm gonna do another couple tries using convection broil because it seems to be the hottest setting. I wanna see if I can solve that unevenness. Hi, I'm Daniel from the future. Before I show you the final results of my tests, I have 2 things to tell you. First of all, pizza Napoletana is an art and a science that simply cannot be replicated in a home oven. That said, we can still make a mighty fine pizza in our home ovens, so don't let that stop you. Second of all, your oven is different than mine, and some other setting or method might work better for you. The only way to find out for sure is to try it. Now, on to the results. As we saw, putting the toppings on at the beginning resulted in a crunchless and colorless crust. That said, I still think that using normal bake and then pre-cooking the crust is actually a great option. You have a lot more control over how dark you want the crust, and I would say this is the easiest method overall. The broil setting actually made a huge difference in oven temperature and made a decent pizza. However, it's definitely the hardest setting to use. The oven door has to stay open to keep the broiler on, but it can't be open for too long or else the air temperature will drop too much. If you are going to use broil, I would suggest heating up your oven in pizza steel using the normal bake setting and then opening the oven and switching it to broil a couple minutes before you put the pizza in. That way the air in the oven stays hot and the broiler stays on. Convection broil is definitely the hottest setting and the closest one to an actual pizza oven. Although at least in my oven, the pizza cooks pretty unevenly when I use convection broil, so it needs to be turned to get the best result. Overall, I think my new go-to setting will be convection broil because it is the closest thing I have to an actual pizza oven. Here's a little bonus test I did too. I cooked one pizza with oil on the crust and one pizza without. As you can see, the pizza with oil has a much browner, nicer looking crust than the one with no oil. Putting oil on the crust is definitely not traditional, but then again, neither is baking a pizza in an electric oven. Some Italian nonnos might be rolling over in their graves right now, but I personally like this result better. If you want to see the recipe to this pizza crust and my first time ever making pizza, click here.